Usually textbooks treat the nervous system like a pristine wiring diagram. You trigger a nerve, you get this perfectly
Stable response, right.
neat and tidy.
Exactly. But step into a real clinical lab,
Yeah.
and that diagram turns into, well, absolute chaos. So today on this deep dive, we are putting away the notes.
We really are. For any developing doctoral student listening to this is where the theory actually hits the pavement.
Yeah, we want you actively retrieving this information from your own brain as we go.
Because, I mean, the leap from a biological mechanism to a statistical model and then to an actual patient, it's just full of traps.
Well, it is a total minefield. So let's start with a trap we see constantly regarding autonomic regulation. People tend to reduce the autonomic branches to this strict binary.
Right, like they assume the sympathetic nervous system is the stress monster.
Yeah, and the parasympathetic nervous system is this, like, Zen master.
Mm.
But I want you to just pause and predict right now. Why is that an oversimplification? Well, because it completely ignores the reality of dynamic allostatic load. I mean, true health isn't about turning one system off and the other on.
Right, it requires flexible regulation.
Exactly. The continuous concurrent modulation of both branches just to meet whatever the environment demands.
It's kind of like driving a car, right?
Yeah.
You need both the gas, the sympathetic, and the brakes, the parasympathetic, depending on the context. Neither is inherently bad.
That's a great way to put it. Or, it's like tuning a complex soundboard at a concert.
Oh, I like that. You don't just mute the bass and max out the treble. You're constantly sliding the faders up and down in response to the acoustics of the room.
And when we observe someone in a clinical setting, we are simply watching how they adjust those faders.
Yeah, but the mistake happens when we assume we know why they moved a specific fader.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our clinician's corner.
Right, so what happens when the acoustics in that room get really complicated? Let's take a veteran, we'll call him Jordan, in a highway driving simulator. If Jordan's heart rate spikes to 120 and he scans the rearview mirrors like 18 times in 5 minutes, the immediate instinct is to just write down PTSD-induced hypervigilance.
But you are leaping from a behavioral and autonomic observation directly to a causal interpretation.
Right, because heart rate and eye movement are strict observations.
Exactly. Hypervigilance is a complex psychological construct. Conflating the two without rigorous evidence is basically how bad science sneaks into clinical practice.
So if we can't casually link a heart rate spike to PTSD, how do we actually prove that link? Welcome to the Researcher's Corner.
Let's hear it.
Say we design a study using pace-breathing biofeedback to help veterans like Jordan with driving anxiety. My concern is the statistical noise. Wait, what if Jordan drank 4 espressos before the simulator?
Or didn't sleep at all.
Exactly. Or is running on 2 hours of sleep. How do we filter out that autonomic noise to measure real improvement?
Well, you just hit on the perpetual challenge of confounding variables. Caffeine, sleep deprivation, they will completely hijack your physiological data.
Which is why strict operational definitions are non-negotiable.
Right. But even if you control for the noise, you still have to look out for the trap of clinical versus statistical significance.
Oh, because a tiny, statistically significant drop in a physiological stress marker doesn't matter if the veteran still can't merge onto a real highway.
Precisely. If your intervention doesn't translate to functional behavior, well, the statistics are just a math exercise.
Which makes me question a lot of the physiological claims floating around out there. Let's do an evidence check.
Okay, lay them on me.
Defining the central nervous system.
That is fully established.
What about researchers chasing a single definitive physiological biomarker for PTSD, like a specific cortisol threshold?
Completely unsupported. They are chasing a ghost.
Wait, really? Just a ghost?
Yeah, a single biomarker just doesn't work. Trauma physically manifests in vastly different ways depending on someone's baseline neurobiology and environment.
You simply cannot reduce a systemic multi-layered disorder to a single biological swab.
You really can't.
Okay, but what about multimodal repeated measurements? If we combine eye tracking with continuous autonomic data, will that eventually just prescribe the perfect PTSD treatment for us?
I would firmly label that as uncertain. I mean, it's an emerging field, and it's promising for capturing individual patterns over time.
But the idea that it will automatically dictate treatment.
Yeah, that's highly uncertain. Physiology provides an incredibly rich layer of data, but it can never replace integrated human clinical judgment.
Which means as a researcher, you have to be able to connect the entire chain of evidence yourself. So here is your 1-minute teach-back challenge.
Get ready to pause.
Yeah, pause this audio and verbally explain the entire scientific chain without your notes. Start at the underlying nervous system mechanism, connect it to the observed response, define it operationally,
Outline the research design.
interpret the statistical evidence, and translate it into clinical meaning. You've got this.
And as you build that chain, keep our 3 core takeaways in mind. Number 1, mechanism, measurement, and clinical meaning cannot be isolated. They must inform each other.
Number 2, expert reasoning relentlessly separates what is observed from what is inferred.
And number 3, good science reduces uncertainty without pretending that the uncertainty completely disappears.
And for your final active retrieval challenge before you head back to the lab, draw and label a neuron from memory.
But since we are operating at a doctoral level, map out the specific neurochemical feedback loops at the synapse and write down exactly how you would capture that mechanism statistically.
Love that challenge. Before you go, mull this over. If our nervous system is constantly adjusting the faders on a soundboard, what happens when the environment itself locks those faders in place without our permission?
Think about how that fundamentally changes our treatment target.
Exactly. Remember, mastery over memorization.